The massive chamber stretched out like a cathedral made of living crystal. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the center, surrounded by beings that looked like they came from nightmares and dreams. Some floated in the air like glowing jellyfish. Others stood tall as buildings made of metal and stone. A few looked almost human, but their eyes held the weight of millions of years. Elena had come here hoping to make friends. She left knowing humanity was doomed. The voice that spoke had no mouth. It came from everywhere at once like thunder inside her head. The species called human has been judged. You will leave this galaxy. Elena's heart stopped. Around her, the other human diplomats went pale. Dr. Marcus Chen, their chief scientist, stepped forward. His voice shook as he spoke. We don't understand. What have we done wrong? The floating jellyfish thing pulsed with angry red light. Your species spreads like disease. In 50 years, you have taken 47 worlds. You build weapons that can crack planets. You fight wars over resources that could feed billions. Elena found her voice. Every species does that. The Korthak Empire has been at war for 300 years. The Silicon Collective strip mines entire star systems. They are old, the Thunder voice replied. They have learned control. You have not. You will not be given the chance. A being made of pure energy stepped forward. Elena had to squint to look at it directly. Your kind adapts too quickly. You solve problems others cannot. This makes you dangerous. Dr. Chen's face went red. So you're punishing us for being smart? We are protecting the galaxy, said a creature that looked like a walking tree. In our simulations, humanity conquers half the galaxy within 500 years. In another 1,000 you rule it all. Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. Those are just guesses. Computer models. You can't judge us for things we might do. The crystal chamber grew darker. The beings around them moved closer. Elena felt very small and very human. The decision is made, the Thunder voice said. You have 72 galactic cycles to return to your birth system. All humans must leave the settled galaxy. When you are gone, we will seal your space away. You will never return. You can't do this, Elena said. We have colonies, families, 12 billion people live on those worlds. Move them, the energy being said simply. Or leave them to die when the barrier activates. Dr. Chen stepped closer to Elena. What kind of barrier? The walking tree rustled its leaves. Quantum foam walls. Space itself will become impassable. Your ships will bounce off like insects against glass. Elena's mind raced. We could fight this. Humanity won't just roll over and die. The chamber filled with something that might have been laughter. If laughter could sound like breaking glass. Fight with what? Your biggest fleet has 100 ships. The Korthak Empire alone has 10,000. We are 12 species working together. You are one small race that learned to fly between stars 50 years ago. The truth hit Elena like a physical blow. Humanity was an ant colony threatening elephants. The elephants had decided to step on them. Please, she said, give us a chance. We can change. We can prove we're not a threat. No, the Thunder voice said. We have seen too many young races promise peace and bring war. Better to end the threat before it grows. Elena felt tears on her cheeks. Around her, the other human diplomats looked like they wanted to run or fight or scream. But there was nowhere to run, and fighting would only prove the aliens right. How long do we have? Dr. Chen asked quietly. 72 cycles. Your time measures. Approximately 18 months, Elena's stomach dropped. 18 months to move 12 billion people across hundreds of light years. It was impossible. But then she remembered who she was talking about. Humans didn't accept impossible. We'll need ships, she said. More than we have. That is not our problem, the jellyfish being pulsed. Elena nodded slowly. No, it's ours. She looked around at the alien faces. Some showed pity. Others showed fear. A few showed something that might have been regret. When we're gone, she said carefully, what happens to our colonies? Our cities? They will be destroyed, the tree being said. Nothing of your presence will remain. Elena closed her eyes. 47 worlds. Millions of buildings. Hospitals. Schools. Homes where human children took their first steps. All of it would become dust. We'll remember this, she said quietly. The energy being flickered. Threats will not change our decision. That wasn't a threat, Elena said. It was a promise. Humans remember everything. Our children will know what happened here. Their children will know. For as long as our species exists, we will remember that the galaxy cast us out. The chamber fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat. Then remember this as well, the thunder voice said. If you ever return, we will not be so gentle. Exile is mercy. Destruction is the alternative. Elena looked up at the crystal ceiling. Somewhere beyond it, human colonies were going about their daily lives. Farmers tending crops under alien suns. Scientists making discoveries that could help everyone. Children playing games their great-grandparents invented on Earth. All of it would end because humanity was too successful too quickly. We understand, she said. The audience was over. Elena and her team were escorted out by beings that moved like living shadows. As they walked through halls made of materials that didn't exist on any human world, Dr. Chen whispered to her. Elena, this is insane. 18 months isn't enough time. I know, she whispered back, the logistics alone. We'd need to commandeer every ship in human space. Civilian freighters, military vessels, everything. I know, and even then we might not save everyone. Elena stopped walking. The shadow beings waited patiently. She turned to face her team. Marcus, how long did it take humanity to go from horse-drawn carts to spaceships? About 200 years, but how long from the first airplane to landing on the moon? 66 years. How long from discovering nuclear power to building fusion reactors? Dr. Chen's eyes grew wide. 30 years. Elena smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, it was real. Humans don't just adapt, Marcus. We do impossible things when we have to. The aliens are afraid of us for good reason. You think we can actually do this? Elena looked back toward the crystal chamber, where 12 ancient species had just sentenced humanity to exile. I think we're about to find out what humans can really do when their backs are against the wall. They walked in silence after that. But Elena's mind was racing. 18 months to move 12 billion people. It was impossible by any reasonable measure. But humans had never been reasonable. As their ship lifted off from the alien station, Elena sent a coded message to Earth. 3 words that would change everything. Operation Exodus begins. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs. In the days that followed, every human in settled space received the same message. Pack light. Leave everything you can't carry. Come home. The greatest evacuation in human history was about to begin. The barrier went up on schedule. Admiral Sarah Torres watched from the bridge of the last evacuation ship as space itself turned solid. One moment stars filled the view screen. The next there was nothing but a wall of swirling energy that hurt to look at. That's it, her navigation officer said quietly. We're cut off, Sarah nodded. Behind them, the Sol system held 15 billion humans crammed into a space meant for 5 billion. Every ship, every station, every orbital habitat was full to bursting. They had saved more people than anyone thought possible, but 3 billion had chosen to stay behind on the outer colonies. Those people were dead now. The barrier didn't just block travel. It had crushed every human structure outside the 8-light-year prison that was now their entire universe. Admiral, her communications officer called out, we're getting a transmission from Earth. The President wants to address the fleet. Sarah straightened her uniform. Put it through. President Chen's face appeared on the screen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in the past 18 months. Everyone had, people of humanity, he began. Today we begin a new chapter. Not the chapter we wanted, but the one we've been given. Sarah looked around her bridge. Her crew was mostly young people who had been born on the outer colonies. This solar system was as alien to them as any world in the galaxy. The aliens fear us, the president continued. They fear what we might become. Today we begin the work of proving their fears were justified. Across the fleet, 30,000 ships listened in silence. Military vessels, civilian freighters, colony ships, even private yachts pressed into service. Humanity's entire space-going civilization packed into one small corner of the galaxy. We will not waste our exile, President Chen said. We will use it. Every day, every year, every generation will make us stronger. When we return to the galaxy, and we will return, we will be something they never expected. Sarah smiled grimly. She had seen the preliminary reports from the science teams. Humanity's forced isolation was already driving innovation at an incredible pace. When you couldn't expand outward, you had to expand in other directions. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, granddaughter of the scientist who had stood before the Alien Council, worked 18-hour days in the research stations orbiting Jupiter. Her team was making breakthroughs that would have taken decades under normal conditions. The key was dimensional physics. The aliens' barrier worked by making normal space impassable, but space had layers, dimensions folded inside each other like sheets of paper. If you could slip between those layers. The quantum barrier uses fourth-dimensional anchors, Yuki explained to the Research Council. But there are 11 dimensions we know of, maybe more. The aliens only blocked 3 of them. Admiral Torres attended those meetings when her duties allowed. The military implications were staggering. "You're saying we could potentially bypass the barrier?" she asked. Yuki's eyes lit up with the fire that burned in every human scientist now. "More than that, if we can master dimensional folding, we could go anywhere in the galaxy instantly. No travel time. No fuel requirements. Just step from one fold to another." The research took decades. Humanity's population, carefully managed, grew to 50 billion. Every child was educated in mathematics, physics, and engineering. Art and music were preserved, but science was survival. The first successful dimensional fold happened 70 years after the exile. A small probe vanished from a lab on Mars and reappeared near Pluto 3 seconds later, having traveled 39 astronomical units through folded space. Dr. Tanaka, now an old woman, wept when she saw the data, but the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The overcrowding that had seemed like humanity's greatest weakness became its greatest strength. Captain Lisa Park commanded one of the massive orbital cities that housed 10 million people around Saturn. Space was so limited that every cubic meter had to serve multiple purposes. Waste was impossible. Everything had to be recycled, reused, perfected. "We've created a closed-loop economy by accident," she reported to the Governing Council. "Our resource efficiency is approaching theoretical maximums. We're getting more energy, food, and materials from less input than any civilization in recorded history." The implications were enormous. Humanity was learning to do more with less. Much more. General Marcus Rivera ran the military academies that trained every human child in tactical thinking. His graduates didn't just learn to fight. They learned to think like a single organism. "Individual excellence is good," he told his students. "Collective excellence is unstoppable." The lesson stuck. Humanity's exile had burned away the old divisions. Nations, corporations, religions, all of it merged into a single purpose. Not through force, but through necessity. Commander Elena Wright, descendant of the original ambassador, led the deep space monitoring stations that watched the barrier. Her teams used increasingly sophisticated sensors to peer through the quantum walls. "The galaxy is in chaos," she reported during the 500th anniversary of the exile. "We're detecting massive energy signatures. Wars, probably. The barrier prevents detailed scans, but something big is happening out there." The news sparked fierce debate. Some humans wanted to break through the barrier immediately and help. Others argued for waiting until humanity was stronger. President Sarah Tanaka Chen, great-great-granddaughter of both the original ambassador and the first dimensional physicist, made the decision. "We wait," she declared. "Not because we're afraid, but because we're smart. The galaxy cast us out when we were children. We'll return as adults." The waiting continued. Centuries passed. Humanity's technology advanced in ways that defied prediction. Dimensional folding became routine. Matter-energy conversion reached perfect efficiency. Quantum consciousness transfer allowed minds to back up and restore themselves. Most importantly, humanity learned patience. The children born in exile grew up with stories of the galaxy beyond the barrier. To them it wasn't home. It was a destination. Dr. James Rivera Park, living proof of how much humanity had changed, stood before the 1000th Anniversary Council. His body was a work of art, genetically optimized and cybernetically enhanced. His mind was linked to the collective intelligence network that connected every human alive. "The probe data is conclusive," he announced. "We can penetrate the barrier safely. The technology exists. The question is, are we ready?" Around the council chamber, 500 representatives of humanity's scattered population considered the question. They represented not billions of individuals, but a species that had transformed itself through necessity. "The galaxy exiled us because they feared our potential," said Counselor Maria Santos Wright. "Have we reached that potential?" The answer came not from debate, but from data. Humanity's current population, 200 billion, all living in perfect harmony within their 8-light-year prison. Their technology, advanced beyond anything the galaxy had possessed 1,000 years ago. Their unity, Absolute, forged in the fires of exile and survival. We're ready, President Tanaka-chan declared. But we won't charge in like the young race they feared. We'll observe first, learn what the galaxy has become. Then we'll decide how to proceed. The first scout ship, built using principles that would have seemed like magic to the humans who were exiled, slipped through the barrier on the 1001st anniversary. Its captain, Admiral Jennifer Chen Rivera Park Santos, carried names that told the story of humanity's transformation. She also carried instructions that would reshape the galaxy. Observe, her orders read. Document. But do not reveal ourselves until we understand what we're returning to. As her ship emerged into normal space for the first time in a millennium, Admiral Chen Rivera Park Santos smiled. The last time humans had seen these stars, they were refugees begging for mercy. This time they were something else entirely. Something the aliens should have feared much more than they had. Captain Alex Rivera watched the scanner display with growing disbelief. The Prometheus hung invisible in the void, her dimensional phase generators keeping her hidden from every sensor the galaxy had ever developed. Around them, space was full of wreckage. Jesus, whispered Lieutenant Park from the sensor station. How many ships are out there? Alex didn't answer immediately. He was too busy trying to understand what they were seeing. The Kepler system had been the site of a major alien trade hub when humanity was exiled. Now it looked like a graveyard. Thousands, he finally said. Maybe tens of thousands. Dr. Lisa Chen Santos floated over from the analysis station, her enhanced body moving gracefully in zero gravity. All the scout teams had the new modifications, improved bones, better muscles, brain-computer interfaces that let them think faster than any baseline human ever could. The wreckage patterns suggest this battle happened recently, she reported. Within the last 50 years, energy signatures match hegemony weapons, but also something else. Alex frowned. The hegemony of scales had been a minor faction when humanity left. Aggressive reptilian creatures who controlled maybe 20 systems. If they were fighting in Kepler space, they had expanded far beyond their old borders. Take us closer to that debris field, he ordered. I want to know what happened here. The Prometheus slipped through space like a ghost. Her hull could phase between dimensions, making her effectively invisible to any technology the galaxy possessed 1,000 years ago. The question was, what had the galaxy learned in humanity's absence? The answer was disturbing. Captain, called Ensign Wright from communications, I'm picking up a distress signal. It's in symphonic. Alex's blood ran cold. The symphonic minds had been one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy. Crystalline beings who communicated through harmonic frequencies. They had never hurt anyone. They had also been one of the species that voted for humanity's exile. Put it through. The bridge filled with haunting music that spoke of pain and terror. The translation software, updated with 1,000 years of linguistic analysis, rendered the meaning into human speech. Camps on Harmonia 7. Harvesting continues. Children taken for processing. Why did the makers abandon us? The signal cut off abruptly. Dr. Chen Santos looked pale. Harvesting? What could they mean? Alex had a horrible suspicion he knew. Lieutenant Park scanned for symphonic biosignatures in the debris. The results came back minutes later. Park's voice was tight with anger. Sir, I'm reading crystalline fragments consistent with symphonic body composition. Lots of them. The pieces fell together in Alex's mind. The hegemony wasn't just fighting the symphonic minds, they were hunting them, killing them, possibly eating them. Set course for Harmonia 7, he ordered. Silent running. The journey took 6 hours through folded space. When they arrived, Alex wished they hadn't. Harmonia 7 had been a beautiful world of crystal cities and singing forests. Now it was a mining operation. Massive machines tore at the surface while hegemony ships hung in orbit like carrion birds. There, Dr. Chen Santos pointed at the main screen. Processing facilities. Alex magnified the image and immediately regretted it. The buildings were clearly designed to hold prisoners. Symphonic minds moved in long lines between structures, their crystalline bodies dull with despair. They're using them as slave labor, he said quietly. No, sir, Lieutenant Park said, her voice shaking. Look at the output conveyors, Alex looked. The conveyors carried refined crystals in neat packages, crystals that looked suspiciously like processed symphonic body parts. Oh my God, whispered Ensign Wright. They're not enslaving them. They're farming them. Alex felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. He had read the historical records of humanity's exile. The symphonic minds had been among the most vocal supporters of banishing his species. They had called humans too violent, too dangerous. Now they were being processed like livestock. "Sir," Dr. Chen Santos said carefully, "our orders are to observe only." Alex nodded. "I know what our orders are, Doctor." He also knew what he was going to do about them. Right, open a channel to the Sol barrier. "I need to speak with command." The message took 3 hours to reach home and 3 more for the reply. When it came, Admiral Torres Park's face was grim. "Captain Rivera, you are to continue observation only. Do not reveal human presence under any circumstances. We need more intelligence before we act." Alex had expected that answer. It was the smart, cautious response. It was also wrong. "Ma'am, with respect, the situation here is beyond anything we anticipated. The hegemony is committing genocide on an industrial scale. I understand your feelings, Captain, but, Admiral, they're not just killing the symphonic minds. They're processing them, using their bodies as raw materials." A long pause. Then, "How certain are you of this assessment?" "Completely certain, ma'am." Another pause. Alex could see the Admiral struggling with the decision. Finally, "You have discretionary authority to gather intelligence through limited intervention. But, Captain, humanity's return must not be revealed. Whatever you do, make it look like something else." Alex smiled grimly. "Understood, ma'am." He cut the connection and turned to his crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to conduct humanity's first military operation in 1,000 years. The plan was elegantly simple. The Prometheus would phase into the processing facility, locate the symphonic prisoners, and extract them. To anyone watching, it would look like the prisoners had somehow freed themselves. Dr. Chen Santos led the insertion team. Her enhanced body could survive in vacuum for hours, and her built-in sensors could map the facility layout in minutes. She materialized inside the main processing center like a vengeful ghost. What she found there made her glad humans had learned to control their emotions over the past millennium. The symphonic minds were kept in sonic dampening, chambers that prevented them from communicating. Their crystalline bodies were systematically harvested, a piece here, a shard there, while they were kept alive to regenerate. One of the prisoners looked up as Dr. Chen Santos appeared. His harmonic voice was barely a whisper. "Are you death come at last?" "No," she replied in perfect symphonic. "I'm something better. I'm hope." The extraction took 18 minutes. Dr. Chen Santos and her team phased the prisoners out of their chambers and onto the Prometheus. To the hegemony guards, it looked like the symphonic minds had simply vanished. As they fled the system, Alex listened to the panicked communications from the surface. "The prisoners are gone." "Impossible." "The chambers were sealed." "Check the dimensional scanners." "We don't have dimensional scanners, you fool." Alex smiled. The galaxy had forgotten how to be afraid of the unknown. They had grown complacent, assuming their technology was the best possible. They were about to learn otherwise. The rescued symphonic minds recovered quickly once they were free. Their leader, an ancient being called Chorus of Distant Stars, approached Alex on the bridge. "Captain," she sang softly, "your species, you were exiled long ago." "We were," Alex confirmed. "Why have you returned? Why save us?" Alex looked out at the stars. "Because the galaxy cast us out for being too violent. Maybe it's time to show them what human violence really looks like when it's pointed in the right direction." Chorus of Distant Stars was quiet for a long moment. Then, "The hegemony believes they are the strongest predators in the galaxy." "They're wrong," Alex said simply. "What are you?" Alex smiled, and for the first time in 1,000 years a human bared his teeth at the galaxy that had rejected him. "We're what you were afraid we'd become, and we're here to collect what's owed." The Prometheus slipped back into folded space, carrying its precious cargo toward the barrier. Behind them, the galaxy's new predators searched frantically for enemies they couldn't see, using technology they didn't understand. They had no idea that their time at the top was ending. Humanity was done observing. Admiral Elena Vasquez Chen stood on the bridge of the Terran battleship Retribution, watching the hegemony fleet burn. Around her, 50 human warships hung in space like angry gods, their dimensional weapons tearing holes in reality itself. It had been 6 months since Captain Rivera's reconnaissance mission. 6 months of careful planning, precise strikes, and growing legend. The galaxy was full of whispers now, stories of ships that appeared from nowhere, slaves who vanished from locked cells, and hegemony fleets that simply disappeared. Today, humanity would step out of the shadows. "Admiral," called Commander Sarah Park from the tactical station. "The hegemony flagship is moving to engage." Elena smiled coldly. The hegemony's greatest warship, the Devastator of Worlds, was 10 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Its captain probably thought he was about to win the greatest victory in hegemony history. He was about to learn how wrong he was. "Signal the fleet," Elena ordered. Decloak. Around the Kepler station, space shimmered. One by one, the ships of humanity's first expeditionary fleet appeared. Each vessel was a masterpiece of technology that the galaxy had never seen. Hulls that could phase between dimensions, weapons that folded space-time, shields that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. The effect on the hegemony fleet was immediate. Communications channels filled with panicked voices as alien captains tried to understand what they were seeing. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves." The transmission came from the Devastator of Worlds, its captain's voice full of arrogance that was about to turn to terror. Elena opened a channel to every ship in the system. Her words would be recorded, transmitted, and heard across the galaxy within hours. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez Chen of the Terran Empire. We have returned, and we claim these beings under our protection." The silence that followed was profound. Elena could imagine the shock rippling through alien command centers as they realized what they were hearing. Humanity, the species exiled 1,000 years ago, was back. The hegemony captain recovered first. "Impossible. The Terrans were banished." The barriers failed," Elena lied smoothly. "Did you really think 1,000 years wouldn't be enough time for us to find a way through?" The Devastator of Worlds turned its main weapon toward the Retribution. Elena watched the energy build up with amusement. The hegemony's most powerful weapon was about to demonstrate humanity's technological superiority. "Fire," she ordered quietly. The Devastator's planet-killer beam lanced out toward the Retribution. Elena didn't even bother to raise shields. Instead, she activated the dimensional phase generators. The beam passed harmlessly through her ship, which existed partially in folded space. To the hegemony fleet, it looked like their most powerful weapon had done absolutely nothing. "Our turn," Elena said. The Retribution's main gun fired once. The weapon folded space around the Devastator of Worlds, creating a gravitational anomaly that crushed the massive ship like an empty can. 10 kilometers of alien engineering crumpled into a ball of twisted metal and screaming crew. The rest of the hegemony fleet tried to flee. They never had a chance. Human ships moved through space like sharks through water. Where they passed, alien vessels simply ceased to exist. Some were folded out of normal space entirely. Others were aged to dust by temporal weapons. A few were simply erased from reality by weapons that deleted their quantum signatures. In 12 minutes, the largest hegemony fleet ever assembled was reduced to wreckage and memory. Elena opened another channel, this time to the Kepler station where thousands of alien refugees had watched the battle. "People of the galaxy," she began, her voice carrying to every receiver in the system. 1,000 years ago you cast humanity out because you feared what we might become. Today you learn that your fears were justified. She paused, letting that sink in. In the refugee camps, beings who remembered the old stories of human exile were probably collapsing in terror. But we did not return for revenge. We returned because the galaxy has forgotten how to be civilized, how to protect the weak, how to stand against predators. On her tactical display, Elena could see other hegemony fleets moving toward their position. Let them come. Humanity had 50 fleets like this one, and each could destroy everything the hegemony possessed. "The hegemony's reign of terror ends today," she continued. "Any world that harbors their forces will be liberated. Any ship that flies their colors will be destroyed. Any being that serves their cause will face judgment." She cut the transmission and turned to her bridge crew. Around her, humans who had been born in exile, raised on stories of the galaxy that had rejected them, waited for orders. "Signal Admiral Park," Elena said. "Begin liberation operations on all identified hegemony worlds. Rules of engagement are weapons-free, but protect civilian populations. We're liberators, not conquerors." "Yes, ma'am," Commander Park replied. "And the other species? The ones that helped exile us?" Elena had been waiting for that question. During the reconnaissance phase, they had identified the descendants of every species that had voted for humanity's banishment. Some were extinct. Others were enslaved by the hegemony. A few still held positions of power in the galaxy's chaotic political structure. We judge them by their current actions, she decided. The past is the past. What matters is what they do now that we're back. It was a diplomatic answer, but Elena's eyes were hard as stone. Humanity remembered everything. Every vote, every voice raised against them, every species that had celebrated their exile. The galaxy would learn that human mercy was conditional. Over the following weeks, humanity's return sent shockwaves through civilized space. The hegemony slave worlds were liberated with surgical precision. Their military bases were reduced to atoms. Their leadership was hunted down like the war criminals they were. But the real shock came from how humanity fought. The old human military doctrine had been based on overwhelming force and acceptable losses. The new humanity fought with absolute precision and zero casualties among their own forces. They could strike anywhere, anytime, and vanish before retaliation was possible. More disturbing was their technology. Human ships violated every known law of physics. Their weapons rewrote the rules of space and time. Their soldiers could walk through walls, survive in vacuum, and fight with the coordination of a single mind. Ambassador Sarah Kim, granddaughter of the original expedition's scientist, established humanity's first diplomatic mission in 1,000 years on the neutral world of Sanctuary Prime. Her job was to explain humanity's return to the galaxy's surviving governments. We're not conquerors, she told the assembled alien diplomats. We're gardeners. The galaxy has become overgrown with weeds. We're here to tend it. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy that had lived through humanity's original exile, pulsed with fearful colors. Your species was banished for good reason. You prove our decision correct with every system you destroy. Sarah smiled with perfect diplomatic calm. Respectfully, your species voted to exile mine because you feared we would conquer the galaxy within 500 years. It's been 1,000 years. If we wanted to conquer, don't you think we would have done it by now? The collective's representative had no answer for that. The truth was more complex than Sarah let on. Humanity had indeed grown beyond their old imperial ambitions. They didn't want to rule the galaxy, they wanted to perfect it. But perfection, they had learned, sometimes required force. The final proof of humanity's new nature came during the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. The last hegemony stronghold was protected by a massive fortress and the remnants of their fleet. But more importantly, it was surrounded by a minefield seeded with captured civilian ships. Thousands of alien families used as human shields. The old humanity might have accepted the casualties as necessary losses. The new humanity found a different solution. Admiral Rivera Santos, commanding the Third Fleet, used dimensional folding to phase every civilian ship out of the minefield simultaneously. They appeared in empty space light years away, their crews unharmed and their ships intact. Then she folded the entire hegemony fortress into a black hole. The rescued civilians' testimony spread across the galaxy faster than any official broadcast. Humanity hadn't just defeated their enemies, they had saved everyone else in the process. That night, Elena received a transmission on the old diplomatic frequencies. The message was brief and came from a source that made her hands shake. The Galactic Council requests an audience with humanity's representatives. We wish to discuss terms, Elena smiled. The same beings who had exiled humanity now wanted to negotiate. They had learned too late that their greatest fear had been too small. Humanity hadn't become a threat to galactic civilization. They had become its saviors, and everyone knew it. Emperor Marcus Torres Rivera stood at the center of New Geneva, the massive orbital city that served as humanity's capital at the galaxy's heart. Through the transparent walls of his office, he could see the impossible sight that had become routine over the past 5 years. Dozens of alien species working together on construction projects that spanned entire star systems. The irony wasn't lost on him. The same galaxy that had exiled humanity for being too dangerous now begged them to stay and keep the peace. Your Majesty, said General Lisa Chen, approaching with the day's security briefing, we have another situation developing in the Outer Rim. The Silicon Collective is attempting to recreate the old quantum barriers. Marcus sighed. Some species never learned. How far have they progressed? Early stages, General Chen replied. But our intelligence suggests they're trying to trap us in the galaxy this time rather than keep us out. Marcus almost laughed. The Silicon Collective, a species of living rock formations, had been among the most vocal supporters of humanity's original exile. Now they wanted to prison humanity inside the galaxy they had once protected from human influence. Send the Terran Guard, he decided. Shut down their project. Peacefully, if possible. General Chen nodded and left. Marcus returned to his contemplation of the stars, thinking about the impossible situation humanity found itself in. They had returned expecting to find a galaxy that had moved beyond the need for their protection. Instead, they found a civilization on the verge of collapse. The old Confederation had shattered into hundreds of warring factions. Advanced species had retreated into isolation or gone extinct. Newer, more aggressive races had filled the power vacuum. The galaxy needed rulers. More importantly, it needed the kind of rulers humanity had become during their exile. Beings who could think beyond tribal conflicts and species loyalty. The communication alert sounded. "Your Majesty," came the voice of his aide. "Dr. Sarah Kim is here for your appointment." Dr. Kim entered the office carrying the latest reports from the Cultural Integration Ministry. As the head of humanity's efforts to heal the galaxy's divisions, she had one of the most challenging jobs in the Empire. "How's the synthesis project progressing?" Marcus asked. Sarah's face lit up with the enthusiasm that made her perfect for her role. "Beyond our best projections. We have 12 former enemy species working together on the Vega terraforming operation. The Korthak Empire and the Crystal Mines are actually sharing technology." Marcus smiled. The Korthak Empire had been locked in a 3,000-year war with the Crystal Mines when humanity returned. Now they were building worlds together under human guidance. Any problems? Sarah's expression darkened slightly. Some resistance to the integration policies. A few species are calling human benevolence just another form of conquest. Marcus had heard this criticism before. It stung because it contained a grain of truth. Humanity's rule was absolute even when it was gentle. Every major decision in the galaxy ultimately came through human authorities. "What do you think?" he asked. Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I think they're not entirely wrong. We are conquering the galaxy, just not in the way they expected. We're conquering through competence." It was an honest assessment. Humanity had become so advanced, so capable, that other species couldn't function without them. It wasn't oppression in the traditional sense. Humans genuinely worked for the betterment of all species. But it was still dominance. "The question," Sarah continued, "is whether that's necessarily a bad thing." Before Marcus could answer, another alert sounded. This one was from the Deep Space Command. "Your Majesty," Captain Elena Reyes appeared on the communication screen. "We have a situation at the Galactic Rim. We've made contact with something." Marcus felt his blood chill. Captain Reyes commanded humanity's most advanced exploration fleet, pushing beyond the galaxy's edge to map intergalactic space. If something out there had her worried, it was serious. "Define something, Captain." "A structure, sir, artificial, roughly the size of our entire solar system, and it's inhabited by beings that make our technology look like stone tools." Marcus closed his eyes. Just when humanity had finally achieved stability in the galaxy, something bigger showed up. "Hostile?" he asked. "Unknown." "They're studying us. The same way we might study an interesting insect. They've shown no aggression, but they've also made it clear they could swat us without effort if they chose to." Marcus made a decision that would define humanity's future for the second time in their history. "Captain, you are to establish formal contact. Find out what they want and what threat they pose to galactic stability. Sir, with respect, I'm not sure we should reveal the extent of human capabilities to beings this advanced. Captain, 1,000 years ago this galaxy feared humanity's potential. Today we rule it because we fulfilled that potential. If there are beings out there who dwarf us the way we dwarf other species, we need to understand them." The communication ended, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. Through his office windows, he could see the daily miracle of galactic civilization functioning under human guidance. Alien children played together in the gardens. Former enemies worked side by side on massive engineering projects. Species that had been extinct were being resurrected through human biotechnology. But was it right? The question haunted Marcus more each day. Humanity had achieved everything they dreamed of during their exile. They had returned to the galaxy not as supplicants but as masters. Every problem could be solved, every conflict resolved, every species guided toward a better future. The cost was that nothing in the galaxy happened without human permission. A soft chime announced another visitor. Admiral Jennifer Chen Rivera Park Santos entered, her multiple surnames telling the story of humanity's transformation through forced cooperation. "The Millennial Assembly is ready for your address," she reported. "Representatives from every species in the galaxy are waiting." Marcus nodded. Today marked exactly 1,000 years since humanity's exile. The assembled aliens would vote on whether to accept permanent human rule or ask humanity to withdraw from galactic affairs. "What do you think they'll choose?" he asked. Admiral Chen Rivera Park Santos smiled grimly. "They'll choose us. Not because they love us, but because they can't survive without us. And they know it." Marcus made his way to the assembly hall where thousands of alien representatives filled seats arranged in perfect geometric patterns. At the center of the hall stood a simple podium, where the most powerful being in the galaxy would deliver what might be his final speech. "People of the galaxy," Marcus began, his words transmitted to every inhabited world in real time. 1,000 years ago you exiled humanity because you feared what we might become. Today you must decide whether what we became justifies your ancient fears." He paused, looking out at faces that represented hundreds of species, thousands of worlds, trillions of sentient beings. "We offer you a choice. Accept permanent human guidance and we will continue to protect, develop, and nurture galactic civilization. Reject our rule and we will withdraw to our home system, leaving you to govern yourselves as you see fit." The silence was absolute. Every being in the hall understood the implications. Under human rule, the galaxy prospered. Without it, they would likely return to the chaos and warfare that had consumed the millennium of humanity's absence. "But understand this," Marcus continued. "This choice is final. If you reject human rule today, we will never again intervene in galactic affairs. You will be truly free, free to succeed or fail entirely on your own merits." The vote was conducted in the traditional manner of the old Confederation. Each species cast their ballot in their own language, their own cultural method. The counting took 6 hours. When the results were announced, Marcus felt a complex mixture of satisfaction and regret. The vote was unanimous. Every species, including those that had originally voted for humanity's exile, chose to accept permanent human rule. "Thank you," Marcus said simply. "We will not fail your trust." But as he left the assembly hall, Marcus wondered if they already had. By becoming so indispensable, had humanity created a galaxy of dependents rather than partners? The answer came 50 years later, when Captain Reyes returned from the galactic rim with news that changed everything. "The beings out there," she reported to an aged Marcus. "They're called the Gardeners. They tend to galaxies the way we tend to individual worlds, and they have a message for us." Marcus, now sustained by technologies that kept him alive far beyond normal human lifespan, listened carefully. "They say that every galaxy eventually produces a species like us, beings who transcend their origins and become caretakers of their region of space. They want to know if we're ready to join them." Marcus smiled, understanding finally dawning. Humanity's exile, their transformation, their return and rule, it had all been part of a larger pattern. The galaxy hadn't just created its own rulers. It had created its own gardeners. "What did you tell them?" he asked. Captain Reyes smiled. "I told them we'd think about it. After all, we have a galaxy to finish raising first." Looking out at the stars that had once rejected his species, Marcus Torres Rivera realized that humanity's greatest triumph wasn't conquering the galaxy that had exiled them. It was becoming worthy of the trust that their former enemies had finally learned to place in them.